This is the metal kinetic wall sculpture by Harry Bertoia. It was commissioned during the building of the present sanctuary. Originally, the thought was to have a sculpture outdoors. And when Harry looked at the location, thought that it was probably not the best place to have the sculpture. It was next to a tree and would be in shadow much of the time. After looking at the inside of the sanctuary, which was not yet completed, he asked the builders to put a board up against the wall here, and he said, I think I know where I would like this to go. And so that's where it is. The sculpture here is at St. John's is one of 50 public commissions created by Bertoia. He was a prolific artist, creating a large number of sculptures, as well as furniture, decorative arts, monoprints, and jewelry. Born in Italy, he came to the Detroit area where he stayed with his brother. He received a scholarship to the School of the Detroit Society of Arts and Crafts, and in 1937, a teaching scholarship at Cranbrook, where he taught metalworking and graphics. Cranbrook was, at the time, an eclectic melting pot of creativity, attracting many famous artists and designers. Carl Milles was a resident sculptor, Maya Goetel, a ceramist, Walter Gropius, the visiting Bauhaus architect, the entire Saarinen family, and many others. Students did not receive a degree. Rather, they discovered their passion. And this residency at Cranbrook was a momentous turning point in Harry's life and career. In 1943, he moved to Los Angeles, where he worked in the Ames studio, experimenting in the use of molded plywood, and he also expanded his skill in metalworking at this time. In the 1950s, he moved to Pennsylvania and worked for Knoll Associates designing furniture. In 1960, Harry began the exploration of tonal sculptures. This is one of them. The tonal or sounding sculpture is the art that is most associated with Harry Bertoia. Their sizes vary from a very few inches all the way up to 20 feet tall. This one is not quite 20 feet, but it's pretty good size. Many metals were used for the rods, the most common being beryllium copper, known for its wide range of color variations and rich tones. This work at St. John's was done near the beginning of this period. Bertoia was content to leave the sculpture untitled, stating, and I quote, "Of course, I am glad and entirely satisfied to let the sculpture speak for itself. Technically, the sculpture is made mostly of bronze, with a portion of copper and brass and nickel, as required either for structural needs or for color variation. Many hundreds of parts are assembled in a way to give expression to an overall unity. Each part has an aura of space around itself. Of course, there is an overall similarity among these forms, but on close examination, each one is different from the other. The movement is vertical, which is desirable for the architectural space. Perhaps the only personal word that comes to mind is joyful. It was the joyfulness of doing it, and I hope the joy it will impart." End of quote. There was a letter from the building's architect, John Garber, to Harry, and I'll quote from that. "The sculpture has become an integral part of the building and an integral part of the Sunday worship service. At this time, the sun is low enough to light up the entire height of the object, and of course, the whole thing casts its shadow against the wall. The delicacy of this shadow pattern, combined with the massiveness and richness of the golden front surface, is a very successful thing. Furthermore, another element has entered into the design which I had not counted on, because I had not thought of it. There is an irregular rhythm to the play of sunlight, both on the object and on other surfaces inside the building, due to sunlight going in and out of clouds. This pulse of light is sometimes bold and at other times very quiet. Due to mathematical inevitability, the sculpture always manages to be sunlight at some dramatic moment. End of quote. Bertoia's last years, 1970 to 1978, were spent in Pennsylvania. He was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1976, likely caused in part by the toxic fumes from the beryllium copper with which he so much liked to work. He died in 1978 at age 63. The donors for this sculpture were Clark and Cora Wells, John and Amy Garber, George Rosenthal, Alice Weston, and Harry Bertoia, who wrote off part of his fee. In putting together this overview of the works in the sanctuary, I have come to realize that this was a group of individuals, minister, architect, artists, organ builder, donors, who came together with insight, intelligence, and creativity to forge a deep collaboration that resulted in a truly sacred space that expresses Unitarian principles. I have come to a much deeper personal appreciation of this gift. And I hope that when the church is again open to all of us, that you will find some time to spend with each of these works and perhaps enhance your own personal appreciation. Thank you very much for listening.